They don't come in ships anymore. They don't need lights in the sky. When they want you, they simply unfold the space between your walls. My name is Elias, and for 3 days, I've been sitting in my kitchen with a shotgun across my lap and a circle of salt around my chair. Not for ghosts. Not for demons. But because I saw what was under my skin in the reflection of a microwave door at 3 a.m. It started with the static dreams. You know the ones where you wake up and your legs feel heavy, like they're made of wet sand. You look at the digital clock, and the numbers are backwards. That's the first sign. They're recalibrating your perception. Last Tuesday, I woke up on my front lawn. No shoes. No memory. Just a perfect, surgical triangle branded into the soft meat of my inner thigh. It didn't bleed. It didn't hurt. It just hummed. I tried to stay awake. I drank coffee until my heart felt like a trapped bird. But at 2:14 a.m., the sound started. It wasn't a noise. It was a vibration that bypassed my ears and went straight into my jawbone. The power didn't go out. It changed. The light bulbs didn't flicker. They turned a color I have no name for, a sick, bruised ultraviolet. I walked toward my hallway, and the door to my basement was open. I don't have a basement. I live in a second-floor apartment. I walked toward that door because I couldn't help it. My muscles weren't mine anymore. Something was pulling on my nervous system like a puppeteer. I looked down into that basement, and I didn't see stairs. I saw a vertical shaft of white, pulsing organic tissue. It looked like the inside of a throat. And then, the tall one stepped out. It wasn't a gray. It was thin, like a dead branch, draped in a suit of oily, translucent skin. It had too many joints. When it breathed, I could see the organs shifting behind its ribs. It didn't speak. It just tilted its head, and I felt my entire life, every memory, every secret, being vacuumed out of my brain. I wasn't being. I was on a table made of cold, calcified bone. The ceiling was a hive of thousands of small, twitching sacs. I realized with a jolt of pure horror that those weren't machines. They were living things. The ship was a giant, interstellar organism, and we were the parasites inside its gut. There were others. I saw a girl in a hospital gown on the next table. She was screaming, but no sound came out because her mouth had been fused shut with a clear, surgical resin. The tall ones moved with a sickening, liquid grace. They didn't use scalpels. They used their fingers. One of them pressed a long, needle-thin digit into the corner of my eye. I felt it slide behind my socket, tickling the back of my brain. Record, a voice echoed in my skull. It sounded like grinding glass. The specimen's fear is at 88%. Increase the stimulus. They showed me the nursery. Rows and rows of glass jars filled with a thick amber fluid. Inside weren't aliens. They were humans. But they were wrong. Some had limbs that ended in sensory feelers. Others had eyes that covered their entire faces. They weren't studying us. They were harvesting our blueprint to rebuild themselves. We are the raw material for their next evolution. I don't know how I got back. I just remember the feeling of being poured back into my bed, like liquid being emptied from a jar. But I'm not alone. Since I got back, I can hear them. Not in the room, but inside the walls. They stay just behind the wallpaper, moving with a soft, wet scratching sound. I looked in the mirror today and pulled back my eyelid. There's a tiny, metallic thread pulsing in my tear duct. I called the police, but when the officer arrived, he looked at me with eyes that didn't blink. He had that same hum coming from his chest. He smiled, and his teeth were just a bit too long. "You're doing great, Elias," he said. "The harvest is almost ready." So I'm sitting here. The salt circle is breaking. The ultraviolet light is starting to bleed through the cracks in the ceiling. Check your skin. Look for the triangles. If you wake up and the clock is backwards, don't scream. It only alerts them that you're conscious. They aren't coming from the stars, Inner Scream's family. They've been under our floors the whole time. And tonight, they're hungry. Good night. And try not to dream. If you do, they're the ones watching.